Welcome to the channel for the first time viewers. Welcome back from my existing subscribers. Today we're just going to do a quick unpacking of what I saw from the RTX 5000 announcement. It left a lot to be desired. I feel like they Jensen kind of rushed through it, and it was almost like he couldn't wait to get to AI and some of the server side enhancements and new technologies that are coming. Now granted, outside of gaming, there's a lot of really cool things that were announced today, from robotics to neural engines and how the servers are going to work and the whole Blackwell architecture. I think there's some cool things that were announced essentially, but I only really cared about the gaming stuff. So the fact that, first of all, the CES announcement kept calling it Nvidia, which I'm like, ugh, like this is the #1 company in the world. Like, yeah, you can at least, that's like saying AMD or something crazy like that, right? But anyways, I digress. I just feel like it was really rushed, so we'll go through some of what they showed. The 5090 really was not as impressive as I had hoped it would be, nor did they show enough information to really create a concrete conclusion, other than they didn't show enough. Like, it's still probably worth buying, but it wasn't enough to say, oh yeah, it's a slam dunk. So let's look at this real quick. Now, I will say that the card itself looks pretty clean. I ain't gonna lie there. I think it's pretty dope as far as that goes. All right, so then when you scroll down a little bit, there's that really brief showing of the CES presentation. When you go down here, I think this is where you kind of start to see and you can pick some things apart. So if you look at it right here, you've got the 4090 with DLSS 3.5, right? And I think that the 5090 is going to be a better performer when it comes to ray tracing than the 4090 and even 4000 series in general, right? The 5000 stack is probably going to be faster than their 4000 series counterpart. But when you look at this number right here, the DLSS 4 versus 3.5, which is what we're at, full RT on, so a card that's already better. And what would this number look like if the 4090 had access to DLSS 4.0, right? So if this was available here, you're probably looking at like 180 maybe, right? Or at least 5080 levels, whatever that ends up being as far as RT, which for the 5080 would still be impressive, but it would just really give that longevity to the 4090. But yeah, you see 240 FPS with full RT, so they're using path tracing and everything like that, and their DLSS. So I just feel like this is one kind of gotcha moment, and they did this before when they released the 4090, right? They showed 3 times performance gains over the 3090 Ti, which in the real world wasn't that. And if you play a game like Warzone, like, yeah, it's faster, it's clearly faster, but it wasn't like the 3090 Ti was getting like 220 FPS, 4090 was getting like 330, right? Which is still really good, but it wasn't getting 600 FPS. So that's kind of what they're saying it would have gotten. I think one of the best examples on this whole slide is when you look at, why is this clicking around? Here it is Far Cry. So here's the 2, here's the 1. So 1% is the 4090s. So you see up top 4090. So slight increase here, probably about 20 to 25% increase with just RT. And I think that's the heart of the difference, is that the 5090 is technically going to be faster. But that's where you'll see that gap. And once you throw in DLSS and full RT, that's when you see it really start to take off. But that's because of the way it's doing frame generation. And there's another slide I found later that I'll show you as well. Here's the card, looking super clean. I think it looks very nice. 5080, and then the page just kind of scrolls down and, you know, shows some. When he was talking about 4090 level performance for 549, I was like, cap. Maybe in like the best cherry picked scenarios, like Alan Wake with DLSS 4 versus regular DLSS, right? So here, I'm going to put this link in here because it's one of the clickable links. Like if you go to this article, you can actually well, you can just click on them. It'll open up another page that shows you the 75 supported games and apps for DLSS 4 from day 0. So they're pretty much ready to go already. But I did the same thing for the DLSS 4 up here. And this kind of breaks down the different generations of DLSS. So I think this was a very useful, it's very short, but it's very useful to kind of see. So DLSS off, 27 FPS, right? All the way to DLSS 4 where you got 248 FPS, but DLSS 2, 71, 141, and then 248, right? So I'm just curious, again, if RTX 4000 had access to DLSS 4, where would it be? I would assume it'd be somewhere in between here, right? Because I think the technology is a lot better. Now, we may need the hardware to do it. It may not. This is also cool that they kind of show some of what's carrying over and some of what's not. So multi-frame generation versus regular frame generation. Frame generation was just like 1. Whereas the new one, it does 2 additional frames is what they show, right? All right, let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, so this is it here. So down here, typically you have 1 rendered frame, and there was some really cool stuff that Jensen talked about, like that one scene that was fully ray traced, how they only rendered 2 million pixels, and the other 33 million pixels were AI generated to create that full image. And they're taking away a lot of the noise. Like it's like some fuzzies. Like if you ever turned on DLSS in Warzone and your loot looked shimmery or looked like it had grids on it, that's a artifacting that hopefully they address. But generated 1 frame. You can think of this as like DLSS 1, and now DLSS, or not DLSS, frame generation as we have it today. But when you look at generated frame 2, generated frame 3, these are the newer ones, right? So the next generation. So before it was like a frame, a generated frame, and then a frame. So that created some latency. And now it's gotten to the point where it's been refined either through hardware, and it's a Blackwell architecture, or through software. And if it's through software, then they should release some version of it for RTX 4000. I just think it's the right thing to do. But it's 1, 2, 3, right? I like this slide because it kind of shows you more realistic numbers. It's just straight up numbers. So current 4K DLSS frame generation, right? So this is on a 5090, and it shows, you know, 124 FPS on Warhammer. This isn't the new one. I don't think Space Marine 2. I don't think it's that. But then with the new DLSS 4.0 with frame generation, you got 137 FPS. So that kind of shows you the technology gap on that same architecture. So that's what kind of tells me that if that kind of transitions to the old hardware, what would that look like? It just makes me curious is all. And this is kind of where they talk about 240 hertz gaming. This is kind of it's kind of brutal. This number is true though, when you just have DLSS off. So you're getting 200 FPS, just under, probably like 175 FPS here, but now you're getting 250 on Alan Wake. So still with the 5090 though. And here they're talking about the CPU they used was the 9800X3D. So yeah, it's interesting. But at the end of the day, I really think that it's not that much faster, and they don't really have too much to say. This is a really good video just to show off the improvements in the finished quality. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but when you go to this page yourself, it'll help you out. But look at the edges, how it's kind of shimmery and shaky, and how much more stable the picture is here. I pick up on that stuff. And then this kind of has like a halo around things, where this looks like it's a native image almost. So I think as far as like your story games and things like that go, it's gonna be pretty cool to use DLSS. I already use it for that type of stuff. I just don't like to use it for competitive games. Some people do. It's not my thing. And here's a super resolution, just showing the higher resolution textures here. And then the games, and this was just a quick video I had seen. That's not catch a copyright strike. Copy strike. Look at that jump. So from off, it's still getting 62. So when somebody goes to play Dune, they can go ahead and turn off the DLSS with a 4090 and see what it actually comes up at. Right? So I like when they have numbers like this because I think some of it's technology. So whatever we get on Dune at that 4K setting, just know that it was struggling. It was showing that 50 something FPS. All right, let me know what you think about the RTX 4000 series. Yeah, I think it's something worthwhile. The 4080 looks like, or the 5080 looks like it's the card to get, not the 5090. But we'll see how it all turns out, man. And then if you're gonna get it, I made a video back in the day of how to try to get it and increase your odds. It's really through like Newegg and Apple Pay. So if everybody's trying to buy it at the same time, that's probably gonna be your best bet because there's almost no checkout time. It's just instant. All right, with that, I'm gonna cut out. Hopefully this helps some of y'all out, at least the ones that don't really pay close attention. Most of y'all have probably already seen this, but I'll throw this link in there so y'all can kind of check out some of this stuff too. All right, be easy.